Our Voices Project acknowledges and honors that the lands we live, love, grow, work, and learn on are the ancestral homelands of the people of the Onondaga, or the Seneca, one of the 6 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, along with the Cayuga, who call themselves the Gayukono, the Onondaga, who call themselves the Onondaga, the Oneida, who call themselves Onyutica, the Mohawk, who call themselves Genigahaga, and the Tuscarora, who call themselves Garure. We acknowledge that our society was founded upon exclusions and erasures of many indigenous peoples through centuries of genocide and forced separation from family, culture, language, and from land, spirit, and mind. We acknowledge this violent history of seizure and displacement that allows us to be on this land not only as a recognition, but as a motivation for change. As filmmakers, we are committed to working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism through truth-telling. We invite you to join us in enacting justice by taking such steps as committing to making a recurring monthly donation to a Native-led organization, such as to Ganondagan State Historic Site in Victor, New York, and or Native Made in Rochester, New York. Visit these organizations and find out how you can volunteer your time and help support Native-led initiatives. Find out how Indigenous peoples are represented in your local school district's curricula and advocate for the historical truth-telling of ancestral land dispossession and genocide and the acknowledgement and celebration of Indigenous contributions, past and present. Learn about the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women movement, created to advocate for the end of violence against Native women and to bring awareness to the high rates of disappearances and murders of Native people, particularly women and girls. Learn how you can help. Help work towards truth, healing, and justice for the Indian boarding school impacts by contributing to the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Representation in Cinema. Our Voices Project is a production company committed to providing a safe space and platform for Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples to share experiences while dismantling destructive stereotypes perpetuated in the media through visual storytelling and truth-telling. In this podcast, we talk about the many ways in which Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples are portrayed in films. We address the things that we love seeing, the tropes and stereotypes that Hollywood continues to perpetuate on screen, and what representation we'd like to see moving forward. Hello, listeners. It's Jackie McGriff, your host on today's podcast episode, where we're diving into our film, Being Black in America, with more of our storytellers. Yes, this is part 2. So if you haven't already listened to part 1, please go do so. You can catch that episode and all of our other podcast episodes anywhere that you get your podcasts. If this is your first time listening, 2 things. The first is, hey, and the second is Being Black in America is our latest short documentary film where we show an array of different thoughts and attitudes behind Blackness and what it means to everyone on a personal level by asking one central question: what does being Black in America mean to you? It's a question that's asked in so many ways on screen indirectly and never seen as a conversation amongst ourselves, but directly at the camera to a general audience. This film, however, turns that on its head and makes the audience a bystander, not a participant. Before we get into the episode, we want to remind folks that you can read more information about all of our productions on our website at ourvoicesproject.com. And if you'd like to host a screening of Being Black in America, visit ourvoicesproject.com/host BBIA, as in Being Black in America, and fill out our screening interest form. We'd love to bring our film to you to create brave and safe spaces for unfiltered discussions about Blackness, host panels with Black community leaders, activists, students, and entrepreneurs committed to racial equity and pushing for real change with action items. Some news since our last episode: Our Voices Project is heading downstate for our first ever film festival at the Voices Rising Film Festival in East Islip with Being Black in America. Our screening is on Saturday, October 19th at 1 p.m. So if you're from the area or don't mind taking a road trip, come see us there and watch the film with us. Now let's introduce our guests. In the studio, we have Tiffany Porter. Tiffany Porter is the founder of Being Black in the Burbs and Accomplices, a fierce warrior for social and racial justice. Tiffany navigates the role of a mother to 3 sons with unwavering dedication to dismantling oppressive structures. Their mission is rooted in the belief that none of us can truly be free until all are liberated. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Gabrielle Brannigan. Gabrielle Brannigan is a student at the University of Rochester Warner School of Education and a social studies teacher and coach in Monroe County. Gabrielle was also on our very first episode of the podcast, discussing the film The Harder They Fall and giving us insight into the real-life historical figures featured in that film. Welcome back to the podcast, Gabrielle.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Kim Smith also joins us tonight. Kim Smith is a Rochester native on the City Council whose work has prioritized community building initiatives as she works to forge relationships that lead to effective governing. Kim is a political director for Vocal US, and that's Voices of Community Activists and Leaders. Vocal works directly with impacted individuals and elected officials to create policies that will end HIV, homelessness, the overdose crisis, and mass incarceration. As an at-large member of City Council, Kim is the liaison for the Police Accountability Board, also known as PAB, and the Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative, also known as RMAPI. She was also one of the council members who stood in favor of passing a ceasefire resolution here in Rochester, New York. Welcome to the podcast, Kim.
Thanks for having me, Jackie. Glad to be here.
Lastly, but certainly not least, we have Dr. Katrina Overby, who joins us a third time on our podcast. She was on our episodes for both The Harder They Fall and Attack the Block. Katrina, a tenure-track assistant professor at the School of Communication at the Rochester Institute of Technology, is an activist scholar who is interested broadly in media, race, sexuality, and gender. Specifically, her research interests are in Black Twitter, social media and culture, African-American cinema, race and identity, and television and popular culture, sports media, and the scholarship of teaching and learning. She is a native of Indianapolis, Indiana, and received her doctorate from the Media School and Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana in August 2019. Her dissertation was titled Doing It for the Culture, Defining Blackness, Culture, and Identity on Black Twitter. Katrina received a Master's of Science in Mass Communications with a specialization in news media management from Oklahoma State University in 2011, and her Bachelor of Arts degree in Mass Communications with a minor in broadcast journalism from an HBCU, Rusk College in Holly Springs, Mississippi in 2009. She's currently teaching public speaking, interpersonal communication, communication law and ethics, and communication and identity, and recently joined the editorial board for Gatherings, an interdisciplinary, intersectional feminist journal housed by St. John Fisher University. Overby's article, The Familiar Feels Like Family, a Black Feminist Approach to Placemaking and Gathering for Black Women in the Academy, is featured in the journal's first volume titled Exploring Feminist Placemaking. Welcome back to the podcast, Katrina.
Hello, listeners, and thank you, Jackie.
All right, and you all are welcome. Thank you for being here. All right, now let's get into the discussion. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our filmmaking process. Had any of you been involved in a film or any video interviews before? And if not, what were your initial thoughts when you were asked about getting involved?
I'll say, luckily, I've had some opportunities, and so maybe wasn't so nervous about coming together, but had a high anticipation about being able to meet other Black people in Rochester, New York, in a city that I'm not from, wasn't born in. And so working with our Voices projects over the last couple of years have offered me a few of those opportunities, but not particularly documentaries, but I hope it won't be the last one.
Oh, absolutely not.
Jackie, I am media shy and never thought that I would do anything like that. So that was my first time, but then I was asked to do something else. But after that day, I was done. I was done. The topic was heavy. The conversation was heavy. So thankful that you included me in that process, but it was very heavy.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
I've never been in like a documentary or interview kind of like that. So I'm first of all, I public speaking and me just does not go together. I was forced to go to public speaking class in 8th grade. My teacher walked me down to the guidance counselor and was like, she has to go to public speaking next year. So, and that has stuck with me since, my adult years. So I like to be behind the scenes. I don't even like giving news interviews because once the cameras come on, I just blink. And so I expected to take some Adderall so I can concentrate and process what I needed to, but also just try to relax and be comfortable and understand there's not 50,000 people watching me. And, so first time, and I'm happy. I love the space that I was in, but definitely nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think as an educator, I can public speak, put me in a crowd of 1,000 people, 10,000 people. That doesn't bother me. Old, new, kids, adults, I'm fine. I can public speak. It's the thought of having a camera on me and then not even being recorded, but then watching myself or listening to me. That's the part that got me. That was the part where I was like, that's what I look like? That's what I look like at that angle to everybody? So I think that was the part that I got caught up in, right? And caught in my head about oh no, this is something to be nervous about. And then I think like you were saying, Kim, once I got there in the space, yes, it was heavy, but it also is one of the few times in my life where I have been surrounded by so many Black people and people who were willing to talk and willing to share. And I think for me, the sense of community and safety came pretty quickly. And I feel for myself in a lot of other spaces, it takes a really long time. And I appreciated that. I was put at ease pretty quickly.
Yeah, because in the everyday media, like you mentioned, when those cameras come on, because it feels very exploitive, because you don't know what people are going to ask and what feeling it is going to trigger within you. And so you're in the moment, being vulnerable, speaking your truth, and someone standing there with a camera. And I was so afraid that was going to be my experience with being Black in America. And it wasn't. It was a round table discussion, like you mentioned, with sisters. And we did have a brother there.
Yes. Yes, we did. I guess, what did you feel immediately, if you remember back, and it was, of course, earlier this year that we filmed this, shot it, got it, edited and everything, and now it's out there. What did you immediately feel like once we wrapped?
Community. Right, I think it's interesting to be in a space with people who most I'd never met or I'd only heard of, like Tiffany, right? And to be in a space leaving thinking how much closer I felt to people who essentially were complete strangers. I didn't expect to feel that. And I didn't know what to do with it. Right? That was I still, right, don't know what to do with it, but it was a community is the first word that comes to mind to your question.
I think piggybacking on you saying sort of, strangers, it felt like we might have come in as strangers, but once it ended, I was like, okay, I have more questions. Is that really all the time that we have? I think I looked at them, I was like, is that it? Right. I was like, oh, we sort of just got started. I felt like the ice was starting to melt in what people were able to express or talk about. I think there was some immediate shyness happening when we first started, and we're expected to sort of start answering the question, right, and think through that and actually get to hear what other people are saying as we're also expressing ourselves. So I think I left feeling like there wasn't enough time. And I hope I get the opportunity to continue to reach out or see or support what each and every one of us has going on.
Absolutely. Gabrielle, you look like you were about to say something.
I was just going to talk about time because you kind of, I had played the role sort of facilitator, and I remember at various times, 2 or 3 times, but before we started the filming, and you're like, okay, so I'm going to put my hand up and that'll be the signal that we're at time. And then you put your hand up, and that was time. And we were still going, and I was like, well, I can't interrupt anybody now. Like, this now is getting good. Like, now like, I'm comfortable. So then you put your hand up the second time, and then I'm sweating because I'm like, okay, well, I have been tasked with keeping us on track, on time, and I'm very much like a punctual human.
Yes.
And so then the third time you put your hand up, I was like, I think that we need to wrap it up, and so thank you so much for sharing. And I just remember thinking, there's no way were we fitting all of that conversation in 1 hour. That was not possible in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Yeah. I walked away feeling like I needed to be brought back to the present or brought back to center, because as a Black woman in America, I live the experience, but have never been asked to speak about it. And speaking about it felt very different. It was painful. It was encouraging. It was all of the things, and so and even since then, consistently being cognizant and remembering, like when I'm in the community or anywhere outside of my home and I am experiencing something because I am Black, I go back to that experience, but that experience taught me to name the feeling and to talk through it. So, yeah, I think that's what I mean when I say it was heavy, because it is still with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Which leads me into another question. Are there any moments that while filming that stuck out to you?
That's like asking me what I had for breakfast. Like going way back.
Yeah, I know it was a while ago. If you do remember.
I remember the visual when I first walked into the space, and I was already feeling like the topic, like, what are we going to do? Talk about our experiences. And Tiffany walked in the room, and your physical appearance that day, it weighed on me. You just looked like the epitome of power, of all of the Black women that I read about. And
thank you.
That was one of the things that Tiffany stuck with me that day.
Oh,
That's beautiful.
it is.
Thank you so much.
I would agree.
I would agree too.
For me, it was hearing everyone speak. And then I remember when Kim was like, tissues, and I was thinking, oh, please don't start, because if one person starts, I'm done, right? Like, it's gone. So it was just being in that space with everyone and having the familiar stories, the experiences, and just knowing that you're not alone. I took that with me, and I was so grateful to be in that space. And I also felt safe to say what I needed to say. And I knew that people they felt it too, but they also could empathize with me. And you just don't get that everywhere. Right. So coming into a new space and then having people that are welcoming, but also vulnerable in what they're saying. And then also you're able to process and sit with your feelings, and also theirs too, because it was kind of heavy at times, was just like, it was like, damn, I can't believe I'm here. So, I was looking at everybody, and then I was hearing their accomplishments, and I was just like, I love that for everyone. Like, I love that Kim's on city council, that we have a professor in here, we have teachers. I love that. And not to be elitist or anything like that. I just think the power that we had in the room was just so dynamic, and everybody came from different backgrounds, and I just wanted to pull from all of that, and that's what kind of
from pain to power.
Yeah. To go back a little bit to what you were saying, Tiffany, about just taking in everyone's experiences, and all of you really kind of touched on that and like hearing everyone's stories and their backgrounds and their experiences and everything. For me, what that also kind of alludes to a little bit is intersectionality. And so that we know that that term has been around since 1989, thanks to Kimberly Williams Crenshaw. But we're now hearing more mentions of it now in everyday vernacular whenever discussing identity. And I wanted to know from each of you, what does that term spring up for you right away?
This is a great question because we hear people say intersectionality all the time, and I believe it's sometimes lost where the root of the word came from, or whose experiences were being centered in this idea and notion about intersectionality, but that we all have intersecting identities, right? It sort of sounds like what it is. Like, what are those things about us that we claim and either self-acknowledge or self-identify as well as those others that get sort of presumed upon us by society, no matter what we look like. And so for me, I've always thought about intersectionality being that at any moment I am enacting or relying on any number of identities to be the lens in which I respond, I'm behaving, assessing information, and that each of these are rooted in various parts of my experiences that I've personally had, that I've had as a collective with other people that share the identities that I have and that I embody and that I align myself with. And then, again, just how all of these things play a part and how I move through society, in society, outside of society, and all of those things. So I love intersectionality. I love, in a lot of my research projects, being able to say who I am in the research. I'm someone that is expressive in my work. I like to bring myself into my projects. I try to say a lot of these don't exist without me at the center of them. And so who am I at the center of this work? How do I view this? This is one lens. This is my lens. And these are the things that that lens means for this particular assessment. And so I love being able to enact things like intersectionality, or sometimes in research we call that positionality, making a positionality statement, who I am to this work at any time.
Kim, earlier you were talking about how the experience kind of gave you language for something, and I think that's my experience with intersectionality. Like, I think as a biracial woman, I grew up, and society kind of wants to force us into boxes, and you have to check off, literally and figuratively, and philosophy, like, you have to check off who you are.
Oh, my word.
Right? And intersectionality, hearing that word for the first time was like, permission to be many things. So for me, that's what it means. It's I can be multiple things and hold multiple truths at once. And it doesn't diminish any of them. It doesn't rise one above the other. And I think a memory that stands out to me from the filming was realizing that that's a shared experience and that everybody carries multiple identities, that we all have multiple truths within us. And whether we're willing to share them or not, whether they're cast upon us by society or whether they're from inside of us, that everybody has them. And that, I think, wasn't the first time that I had an experience like that, but it was the first time I had an experience like that with other Black people or other people who identify across races.
So for me, I think I said this in the actual film, I'm not sure. But for me, I feel like I was robbed in my education. And so that term was coined in 1989. I did not understand or even hear that term until 2020. I went to college and I studied social work. I wanted to help people. That was my biggest thing. I had to quit in 2012 because I became more disabled. And still in that studies, intersectionality was not talked about, and that's social work. That should be the place where we are learning about that. Instead, we were learning off of white old philosophers who have been dead for like centuries, right? Learning about conditioning and stuff like that. It had nothing to do with it. So once I learned that term in 2020, I honestly was liberation for me, because I didn't have to hide behind my disability, behind being a Black woman, behind being queer. Like, these are all things that I identify with, and there's actually a term for this. Like, what? Like, and who? And so I felt so robbed, but liberated at the same time once I learned about it. And it was just like, it reminded me of how our education system is just like not there for African American people. Like, it's just not.
Yeah. It's one of the things that makes, I believe, intersectionality challenging, because as you mentioned, it's all of the things comprehensively. And so when we look at race and being Black and class, thinking about intersectionality, we can't limit ourselves to just look at racism outside of the Black experience. We have to look at anti-Blackness and how that shows up in the Black community. And so looking at all of those things, the anti-Blackness, the anti-LGBTQ, just all of those things, it makes it challenging to look at.
Absolutely. Going back a little bit to, again, taking the power back, especially, and I hadn't realized this, of course, until, like, I think I knew it in the back of my head, but Tiffany, you were mentioning how intersectionality has been, I mean, that term has been around since 1989. It was coined in 1989, but you didn't learn about it until 2020, or you didn't learn about it until years and years after. And I also just remember there was quite a few of you actually in the film who were talking about education and taking your power back through education. And so what I also wanted to get into is at the various points of the film, as I said, everyone talks about the importance of learning our history and passing that down to younger generations. Is there an aspect of Black history that you feel really needs to immediately be added into the curriculum? And of course, all of it, but let's say you played a much larger role in coming up with curricula that would be required learning. What's one, two, or a few topics that we need to focus on? And it doesn't have to be just one point in history. I mean, it can be several, but I wanted to hear from you.
Just, I think how Black American culture has shaped the world. I think, like,
read Katrina's dissertation. It's in the show notes. It's in the show notes.
Like, I feel like right.
Please don't read that dissertation, y'all. I found some typos. I will. Only a month after it was published, I was like, "Ooh, is that a typo?" Right? Yes, but
I am. I just feel like it's the most imitated and the most disrespected at the same time. So, that needs to be in the curriculum. It needs to show how not only did we build America, how we shaped it, but how are we doing it now?
Yeah.
In every different part of the world, you can see hip hop. You can see something that has Black us to do with it.
Yeah.
And yet we are still around the world, like, seen as having no culture as Black Americans,
Right. Yeah.
because we were, we were kidnapped.
Yeah.
We were
Stolen.
human trafficked, right?
Right.
And so just that alone needs to be in the curriculum. I think that will give empowerment to the youth and knowing that they have that sense of culture, that sense of belonging. Because let's face it, a lot of us, we were left feeling like we didn't belong anywhere because we didn't know where we came from in Africa, right? We know. But I think that is just what we need to do for our kids. Absolutely. To give them back that culture that we already have and let them, like, really focus on it. So,
Tiffany, I think that's spot on, because I remember history in high school. I remember taking, like, civilization or history in college, and I never saw myself in any of it. So it's not just what is being taught that needs to be changed, but how it is framed that needs to be changed. We have had a clear path and journey from pain to power. We're talking about people who were stolen from Africa, forced in to slavery for many years, went through an area of reconstruction where we were given a mule and some acres, and then that being taken back. denied our right to vote even after freedom, starting even as they started as what's the author, Alexander, the new Jim Crow, and even as they tried to jail us, and I shouldn't put that in the past, try to jail us as a form of the new slavery. Still, as you mentioned, Tiffany, we are here in this space as professors, as council members, black jobs, running for president. I mean, all of these great things. Yes. So it is the framing that needs to be change.
I think I'm going to take it even back, right? I think the American public school education system works exactly the way it was intended to work.
Yes.
It works to make people forget. It works to perpetuate racism, pickenism, really, right? And to fit people into boxes. And so I agree. I'm going to echo what you're saying about the framing needs to change, but the framing as it stands is victim, right? So we went from not talking about it at all in schools because the public school, because, well, they were segregated, and then moving to talking about it only from a victim perspective. Black history has and is still only taught from a victim perspective, that we don't have culture, that we don't have any power, that all of these things happened to us and we all were just like, oh, darn, right? And so many conversations that I have with colleagues and a lot of the work that I have done as an educator has changed that narrative. The idea that the first time I ever learned Black history was slavery. And then the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., right?
Yeah.
And there's so much, just even in Rochester, so much more to even talk about. But there's still people who teach it as victimization. Yes. And is that an aspect? Most certainly it is. But for your example with Reconstruction, right? Yes, in Reconstruction, when it ends in 1877 and the federal government withdraws from the South, that's when we see Jim Crow start to rise in the 1890s. Prior to that, it was successful. People Hiram Revels is being elected to the Senate. And people who were formerly enslaved and considered objects, they were owned by somebody else, are now serving in the highest level of government in this nation. Yes. And it's only after the federal government stops enforcing that all of a sudden now magically, for another 120 years, Black folk aren't elected to Congress. In the southern states. That's a problem, but we don't talk about that. Right. That's not in the curriculum. The curriculum is, well, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, right? This victimization again. And so I think the American school system works the way it's designed to work. And that needs to be overhauled. That's what needs to change. So we can change the perspectives, we can change the curriculum, we can change the teacher education programs until the education system relents and is reformed. The narrative will still continue to be the same in curriculum. It's still going to be pockets of people who are teaching truth and empowering, right? And then there'll be the majority of people who still are just going to teach it as the victim perspective, which I think is what we're seeing happen.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to say, thank you for going there.
You asked two educators about the state of education.
I'm about to tap in because you already went there with Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to say, we love our Black heroes and legends, and they often choose and pick the one, two, or the three that are going to be lifted up as the Black American heroes that they're okay with and their stories. And so I remember giving the keynote a year or two ago at RIT for the Martin Luther King Day, Let Freedom Ring at RIT. And I decided to take the moment to talk about local Black women doing the work, using their time, their talents, and their truth to make Rochester a better place. We can be here under the onus of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but what we're going to talk about is the work that's happening here and how we can support the work that's happening here. And so one thing I would like to see happen are schools moving away from these singular individuals that we continue to prop up and propel and talk about our local folks in the moment who are doing things. So this will take each district knowing who some of those Black local move makers, grassroots folks are, as well as educating them about the power of mutual assistance and the collective of Black folks. that has always been around. So these individuals didn't exist alone or in isolation or in silos. They had groups of people to support them. What does that look like? What did that empower us to do? Where did mutual work in the collective take us? Not the individuals. Where did the collective take us? And so I think that aids in reframing of history, especially when we actually take the time to dig into the context in which these events happen. You often hear events, oh, Black Wall Street, yada, yada, but they don't want to go into the, maybe the violence and how evil some of these things were,
The
right? Because
intentionality.
everyone wants to be so removed from maybe what their ancestors did and take this sort of narrative, well, we weren't here, we didn't do it, so let's forget about it. But you know, that's not the way that we learn to do better and how we've already done better for ourselves. And so along with that, and I'll say this as an HBCU grad, I think more education about the power of historically Black colleges and universities and where those have taken us as well as they have educated some of the most brilliant and talented among us. And of those were a lot of students who would not have possibly even been granted access into other institutions, well, from the history of it in the beginning, right? But then there are other ways that folks get funding and support to go to historically Black colleges and universities when they were not accepted into others. And so those have paved the way for us as well. So yeah, there's a lot that we could change and talk about, but the victim mentality, I'm sort of, a little bit tired of that one as well. There's a lot of joy in the Black experience. And so sometimes I would like for us to start with the joy that is, I think the collective is the joy, right?
Yeah.
We know that as we work together, that there are things that we can get done.
Anything else to add to that? I feel like, I could listen to all of y'all talk about education. I'm just sitting here, I'm just sitting back. I feel like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, I'm no longer I'm just going to listen, sit here and listen to y'all talk about this. In talking about the collective, so of course, thinking about the collective, thinking about building community within the diaspora, as I'm sure we've all said before and will continue to say throughout our lives, is that we are not a monolith. Yet the thing that we all have in common is that we are Black in America. I believe that's actually a direct quote from Gabrielle in the film.
I'm gonna take your word for it.
How do we continue to build community within the diaspora? What does that look like to you? What does that not look like to you?
I was going to say Bell Hooks, excuse me. That's my favorite person ever. But Bell Hooks wrote in her book, All About Love, that there is no better place to learn the art of loving than in community. And so for me, that's just what I envision when I think about community. The love that's there, and also just like love for self brings me to the table to want to be in community with other people. We may not be a monolith, but I strongly believe we have shared experiences.
Yes.
We saw that at the table during the filming, right? As folks were, oh, I've had that childhood experience, or wait, that happened for you. This happened for me in this way. And I think having love for myself lets me know that I need to be in community with other people that look like me. That's loving myself too, is making myself come to the table with other people. And so that's what it really looks like for me. Community is not something that's in isolation from one another.
Self-care is community care.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Can you read the question again?
Because I was
It's all
about to
good.
ask, and then I was like, oh no.
It's all good. How do we continue to build community within the diaspora? What does that look like to you? What does that not look like to you?
It looks like listening to people. I think we do a lot of talking at people and not actually sitting with them and listening to them and taking time to break bread with them. When I'm community building, I'm not just there for a day.
Right.
I'm there for the rest of whenever we're talking. I am also there by email, by phone, by text. Being able to listen to other experiences and also not judging them. I think I think people skip over that part because I sit with all different types of folks. I don't walk past anybody, and it's humanity for me. it's easy. That's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. But I don't see a lot of people doing that. And I know my neighbors. I'll be like, hey, how you doing? I'm Tiffany. I make sure, because why am I living next to people I don't know who the hell they are? Like, when did we start doing that? And so how I started building community is just holding my events where we can sit and break bread and talk and laugh and dance and bring some Black joy back to it, and not just, we have struggles. We're going to talk about them, but tomorrow, like, let's enjoy the time. Let's enjoy each other. I mean, that's things that work for me. And that's how I started, just building more community folks.
Yeah. And I think community, to your point, Tiffany, it's about inclusion. And so being Black in America is also about rejecting becoming Americanized, if that makes sense. Because to be Americanized to me is the closer you are to the white experience of wealth, of professional titles, the closer you are to that experience, the more likely the broader society is to accept you. And so in comes the anti-Blackness and in comes class. And so what community is not, it is not division. It is inclusion regardless of economics, regardless of sexuality. It is being able to embrace all of our Blackness regardless of where you fare economically or in any of the things that I mentioned.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump in with another question I just thought of the top of my head. But after filming, because we're talking all about community, building community, and what that looks like, and inclusion, and especially just having more of these conversations and everything. After we wrapped, Kim, you made a beeline towards me after filming, and I don't know if you remember this, but you came right over to me. You were like, "When are we doing this again? When are we doing this again? Whatever you need, whatever it when are we going to do this kind of thing? We need more of these conversations, more of these discussions." And so in thinking about that, I was like, okay, do we make another film? Do we make it a series? What do we do? But I guess my question, for you and I mean all of you here is with these conversations, what does that, I guess, what does that look like? We're thinking about, of course, doing more screenings and doing these screenings and panel discussions in more and more cities, because of course what you're all talking about in the film isn't specific to just Black Rochesterians. I mean, we're talking about being Black in America. So this is communities across the U.S. So I guess to you, as far as having these conversations, what do you see as a goal, or in having these conversations and everything, or continue to have these? What does that look like to you? I guess. Yeah.
I think having the opportunity for an intervention with the youth or engagement with the youth around the topic, I think how they express being Black in America may differ from how we are discussing it with each other. And I think understanding how they are perceiving themselves in the world right now is different, because Black culture is so tangible on TikTok, on Instagram, and people really don't have a reference for where a lot of these cultural references and nuances come from. And I think we'd be interested to hear how young Black people in our cities and in our schools think about being Black in America. So, whether there's an opportunity for students to sit down at a table with each other, and now there's a younger conversation, right? This conversation could have happened across, some 20s and teens and on down, and so what does that look like for them? So that would be something that I would find cool. Not to put that on you all, but I think that's
stay tuned because we're
intervention.
Right.
Oh yeah, we're definitely thinking about that and reaching out to. We're always already in talks with like Black student unions. So
Amazing.
And I think we should put it on you, Jackie, because I made a beeline to you.
She was determined.
Yes, I was in my feelings. You brought all of this up. You put all of this on the table.
Yes.
Now, what are you going to do with it? And so you do have a responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking for the podcast on anti-Blackness. I'm looking for the podcast on being Black while LGBTQ. I'm looking for it all.
Yeah.
There's no one doing this, Jackie.
Yes. Black and
Except-
deaf, Black and disabled, Black
Yes.
and
Yes.
So many
You've
of
got
us.
a responsibility now, but you put it on your own shoulders.
Oh my God.
This is being Black too. Being like, actually, sis,
Actually.
that is on you. Sorry, sis, I am actually going to say that's your responsibility.
I know. And I'm certainly going to go home and search for a dissertation. Right?
Yes. Like I said, Katrina's dissertation will be in the show notes. Y'all can go because I definitely read it.
We got work to do.
Yes, absolutely. And I absolutely hear that, Kim, because I'm constantly quoting Nina Simone. She's like, artists are supposed to be reflective of the times. And so it is our responsibility, especially as filmmakers. We have such a huge responsibility in the way that when we're talking about framing earlier, framing people's stories, showing, people and telling their stories the way that they want them told, being responsible for that and making sure that it is them in their full, like however they're coming in front of the camera. That's how we want them portrayed on camera and not with any hidden sort of agenda. We want what you have to say fully up there. And then to also being inclusive and remembering the people who may not be represented, right? Like in front of the camera, right? So originally we did have more men that also were there. And then at the last minute, one of them got sick and then they had conflicts or whatever. So of course we are always grateful for tourists, but like to have more people involved in the discussion with different backgrounds, with different identities.
That's right.
To continue to have these conversations where there are people from all over the diaspora, but also with other identities, I think is also important as well. So, oh yes, we're definitely going to have that, especially having the youth, especially having, these are always the things in the back of our heads. And so, yes, just again, and also I think it's also accountability, because if you're going to talk about Blackness, you need to have as many people involved in the conversation as possible. So absolutely, Kim.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So, just a couple other things, because of course we could keep going. Like I said, I can keep listening to y'all forever, but of course people don't have that kind of time. So, on this podcast, we often talk about the representation in movies that we'd like to see. What does authentic representation mean to you, and what kind of representation would you like to see in movies, or are you seeing in movies already?
I want to see bigger Black women, body shaped like mine or bigger,
Let's say that.
being lead roles,
Yes.
being in queer relationships, lead roles. Sorry. I just want to see more of that, more of me and people who look like me, people who identify as me. Also want to see more visibly disabled people in lead roles. I just think we talk about DEI, but we don't actually live it in no system. I feel like, including film. So that's what I would like to see, more of that.
I have got to talk about who plays Annalise Keating? Viola Davis.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't even know what is the name of Murder She
How to
Wrote.
Get Away with Murder.
How to Get Away with Murder.
Roller coaster.
There
The
is
Shonda Rhimes fam.
Yes.
Fans on here. Yeah.
there is this scene, right, where she has this really hard day. She's taught a class. She's been in the courtroom, and she comes home. And so, to the naked eye, she's simply getting undressed and ready for bed. So this Black woman who has to show up commanding respect all the time. She comes home, she takes off her hair, she takes off, you know the
That wig, she took that wig off. She took that wig off.
And then she starts to
Yes.
cry.
Yes.
Because she was feeling the pain not only of herself, but of her community, but in her public persona, she could never voice it. That was the most powerful scene in a movie. And I want to see more of that because it was real.
I remember that. No, when you brought it, I said that wig came off. I was thinking about that, and it was such a moment. It was talked about a lot by Black women the next day, and I think they were grappling with the tension of seeing themselves on screen like that unabashedly.
Yes.
Right. A lot of times it's like, oh, those are things we do behind
Right.
closed doors, and to take that scene and do that scene on primetime television.
Yes.
Yeah, when she wiped them eyebrows off, I was like,
Yes.
yes.
But she was
was
she
gorgeous.
was scrubbing
Yeah.
off the makeup with tears,
Yeah.
and you could feel the frustration of her. And this is just my take on it, like wanting to show up every day in her vulnerable self, but given the nature of all that she has to do and what she's accountable for, she has to show up often and perform.
And who she goes in front of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is a
And
white
she was
and law.
rubbing it off. And I was like, yes, honey.
I believe I love nonfiction work that can exceed the limitations and boundaries of what our imaginations are supposed to be. So sometimes I like Afrofuturism and things that leave me questioning the future of Blackness at the intersections of society and what's this other word? At the intersections, I think of society. Oh, and technology and technological limitations. And I'm thinking specifically of one film because I wrote about it. Spike Lee's film "See You Yesterday," because it's about two Black youth who are urban, but they build a time machine, right? Something crazy, in a hopes to escape someone that they know, a loved one, from being murdered by the police. And so it's also at the intersection of police brutality, at the intersection of, this film, what's that film category that sort of like butterfly effect types of films, if we could go back in time and change one thing with this matter, and what those questions, what those kinds of films leave us questioning about our future, right? If technology continues to advance, why hasn't our ability or society's ability to mitigate and minimize police brutality,
That's another
why is
podcast.
that still here now 100 years in the future with time machines, right? And so I like the things that nonfiction brings to the table as well.
When you talk about urban young boys building a time machine, imagine if we could get our hands on the Kia boys who are out here stealing cars. Can you imagine how smart they would be with like engineering?
Yes.
Can you imagine?
With time, space,
And education.
education and
Yes.
support and resources.
Yes.
Some of the smartest among us can do,
Yes.
sadly, some of the worst things to the community.
Right.
But taking the time to redirect those talents elsewhere. I think a lot of us have
Use
had
the power
some
for good.
redirection. You know, and my grade school teacher, she talks a lot. Well, baby, I'm in communications now. Yeah, I talk a lot, honey. I do. Let's redirect that next time instead of making me feel like I was the yapper of the Midwest.
Were you bossy too? Did you get that one? You were bossy.
With my cousins and my brothers, I used to put on plays. I was a director. Yeah, like bossy.
Yeah, no,
what do you do
but
now?
I'm a leader.
You're a leader.
Right. No, I'm not bossy.
Right. How do we redirect those
And I
skills?
think that's more of what I want to see is that redirection, right? And that vulnerability. The idea that Black women in the United States carry so much. And there's an armor. So I know exactly the scene you're describing. And to me, when I watch that, she's taking off her armor. That's what she's taking off.
That's it.
And more films where there's not armor. More films where people are showing up and they're vulnerable and they are who they are. Or shows or whatever, right? Whatever the media is. Because that's real and that's what people connect to. That's, I think I'm going to bring it back now. That's what I experienced when we were filming is our armor was left at the door and we all sat down and then we were able to have those conversations and share that. And I think it was so emotional for me because that it doesn't happen. You don't see it. There's no script. There's no protocol. There's no process. I don't have any habit of how to interact in that way because I think especially Black women in the United States show up with armor to every single space that they're in. And there are so few spaces where we show up ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Can I also say, like, when I go see movies, I usually go to escape from reality because I'm in reality. I'm living with loved ones getting murdered. I'm living with domestic violence. I'm living in poverty. So when I go to movies, I don't want to see that. And especially don't want to see Black people going through that. I think just like school, movies show a lot of Black struggle. And I want to see more Black joy. I want to see more, you know what I'm saying? Like just rom-coms for Black people or with them in it, you know, being lead roles. Just science fiction. I love me a good science fiction. I love me, you know, like I just want all of that so I can go and escape and not leave with like heaviness.
Right.
Because I grew up with, you know, Boys in the Hood. I grew up with all those things, but those things was my reality too. Like my cousins was actually getting shot, you know, like so seeing that on screen and living that and then having to re-see it again, it was just traumatizing. So I want to see some more positive things about especially Black Americans on film.
Yeah. If any of our listeners are out there and you're holding on to a screenplay for a steampunk themed film with the Black woman at the head, can you please contact me? I'm at info@ourvoicesproject.com because
there are some dissertations.
Yes, we have to connect, Katrina. Yes, that's what I've been wanting to see. I resonate with all of that. Again, we were talking about taking off the armor when you're talking about being fully yourself, unapologetically on screen. When you're talking about, you know, that again, like that's also too what got me into films was that escapism, right? I could go and people were going off to these like far off lands, right? Or in a galaxy far, far away. But like it was never us. Like we don't get to have that. All we get to have is struggle. We don't get to have joy. You know, we don't get to have these like fantastical adventures. So I would love to see more of that. Okay, last but not least, because again, like I can hear y'all I could just hear this I just could have this conversation at all times, all day. But I wanted to also hear about any upcoming projects or events or businesses or shout outs in general that you'd like to make before we close.
I'll go first. My short essay titled Back to Our Roots, Reclaiming Black Community Care in a Digital World will appear in the magazine Hope Wealth, which is a magazine dedicated to empowering BIPOC women by providing holistic health and wellness content that informs, inspires, and uplifts. And finally, in my off time, I'm a DJ and a karaoke host on Thursday and Friday nights.
You scratching
at 2
everything.
local minority-owned bars and lounges in town. And my DJ name is Spin Dr. KO.
Yes.
So follow me on IG at DR
Spin Dr. KO.
KO_08.
Yes.
You had me at
Scratching and mix.
karaoke.
Oh, I'm a beginner at scratching. I was in radio back in undergrad, and so it's coming full circle to be back in like music in this way, and
I love that.
actually learning the art of DJing. That's a lot of fun.
Love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Love that for you. So I feel like I'm saying like, tell me why you mad, son. So what we're working on is my organization. Our education part is, I cannot say the education system is hell. We all know that. It was intentionally built racistly. And Monroe County, count your days. I'm just saying. Especially a lot of these suburban schools, the amount of discrimination that is happening, the amount of parents I have to console is daunting, it's exhausting. But I stopped telling people, because I've collaborated with these schools for about 3-4 years, and I feel like they have been playing in our faces. DEI, they have some of the best DEI people in these districts, and they have no power. And when we're at a time where people are getting suspended from one school year to the next, to the end of or halfway through the school year of the next year, and they're Black kids and they're getting these harsh punishments. Like, come on now.
Right.
And it's going all the way up to the commissioner and still nothing. So I am very frustrated, and I'm now telling parents to speak out, because when you don't, other kids are being abused in the system and traumatized every day. And also, we're speaking out so we can collect data to sue. We need to sue. Can you curse on this?
Yeah.
No cursing?
It's whatever.
Yes.
Say hell or
Okay. Just we sue their asses at this point.
There you go.
It's enough. And like I said, I just had a 6-year-old that was told they couldn't have any breakfast.
Oh,
And didn't have breakfast or lunch.
That's unacceptable.
Okay, 6-year-old baby.
God.
Like, I'm not talking. I mean, these stories are disgusting, and at this point, there's no humanity in the education system. I see, and especially for Black and brown kids. And it's time for people to actually take a stand and to stop letting this happen. And so that's what we're trying to do, is just get the word out. Our organization is working. We have collaborated with 2 education law firms, so we can collect this data and start holding these school districts accountable. And that's the only way. And then to New York State accountable.
Yes.
Because that's their boss. So that's just my
Thank you for
PSA.
doing that work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's being Black in the
That's
burbs
heavy
and
work.
accomplices.
Thank you for doing that work. Right.
Yes.
Yes, Tiffany.
Anyone else? Any shout outs? Businesses, projects, upcoming events?
Well, an upcoming event, you can email your city council persons. We have the opportunity to pass an expanded version of good cause eviction.
Let's go.
We have some of the highest rates
Awesome.
of evictions in the state. So please email your city council person, tell them you need to see not the basic form of good cause, because that basic legislation would leave out over 37,000 renters. And so we want the expanded version of good cause. That's the opportunity. And my shout out is to you, Jackie.
Oh,
Awesome. Yeah.
Just for everything you have done and everything you will do.
Yes.
so much. Oh man! And on that emotional note, thank you, Carol. Thank you all. To our guests, to our listeners. So Being Black in America is our latest documentary short film where we gathered a few of our friends to answer the question for themselves and to discuss with each other, what does it mean to you to be Black in America? We'd love to bring this film to a local community center, library, place of worship, boardroom, or theater near you. So if you're interested in hosting a screening, please visit ourvoicesproject.com/host BBIA, that's Being Black in America, and fill out the screening form. We also have that link in our show notes. For us, it's both about the storytellers, their stories, building community with change makers, and direct action towards racial equity. Visit ourvoicesproject.com/host BBIA to learn more information about hosting Being Black in America. Thank you so much for your support of Our Voices Project and our Representation in Cinema podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, because no one's calling it X, TikTok, and at ourvoicesproject.com.
That's a fact.
Literally no one on that app calls it X. And you can find out more information about what we do. Sign up for our newsletter there, too, to be the first to get notifications about podcast episodes and new projects. You can listen to this episode and others under Representation in Cinema on any of the platforms that you get your podcasts. Thank you again for listening.
This has been a presentation of the Lunchador Podcast Network.